huge gloomy cloud right above my head and it's dripping a little bit. Fortunately, I flew ahead of time, I guess. And what did I read today? How about this one, where apparently, as you know, there's war going around the world, and when it comes to, I guess, talking about it, this one here says someone was kidnapped because they talked about combat drones. This one says, Russian journalist kidnapped, told to stop reporting about combat drone production. So what's going on here, huh? It says a Russian journalist was kidnapped and threatened over his reporting on combat drone production in the central city of Izhevsk. A local Telegram news channel where the journalist works said Thursday. Izhevsk wrote that its reporter Alexander Squirrels left his home around midnight on Sunday to pick up exclusive materials from an informant. 3 unidentified people were said to have shoved Squirrels into a car, tied his hand, taped his mouth, and took him to a basement where he was beaten. One of the kidnappers reportedly warned the journalist that his family and colleagues would also face violence unless he stopped talking shit about reputable people and drone manufacturer Zala Aero. Zala Aero, founded by local businessman Alexander Zala in the early 2000s, makes the Lancet kamikaze drone, which has created serious obstacles for Ukraine's counteroffensive last year. Izhevsk said the kidnappers had brought Squirrels back to where he was kidnapped around 24 hours later. Police declined to investigate the kidnapping after learning about Zakarev's possible involvement, the outlet said. And so I guess because of that, they say they're ceasing reporting on this issue. If that is true anyways, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? It makes you think too during these times, is it a dangerous profession of sort for people to actually do this, like be a reporter, for example, because there's just so many people that want to silence, let's just say, people to investigate another opinion or perspective. So it's kind of crazy to think about during these times anyways, because you'd often think more about weapons and all that during war, but I guess information is a factor too, huh? And in terms of war, more news, I guess, about what the US will do to Iran, potentially, because of that drone attack, which they say they were involved with. This one here has said the US retaliates after deadly drone attack on Jordan base. The US on Friday began to carry out retaliatory strikes in Iraq and Syria, likely against Iran-backed militants, for a drone strike on an American base in Jordan last Sunday that killed 3 US service members. Dozens of other American troops were wounded in the drone attack on the Tower 22 base near Jordan's border with Iraq and Syria. The US says Iran is responsible for funding and arming the militants, while Iran has denied involvement. President Joe Biden had quickly warned that America will respond forcefully, escalating US involvement in the Middle East after months of trying to contain tensions from boiling over into a broader war in the region. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States, CENTCOM said. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations, center intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned air vehicle storages, and logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against US and coalition forces. So it looks like they're starting, I guess, in terms of this war. It's a little unfortunate, unfortunately. And it was kind of interesting reading this, where apparently in an area they're going to potentially use it as a drone testing site, but it's kind of interesting how they say here specifically Chinese drones. It says Dawson Creek offered chance to become test site for Chinese-built drones. In a letter presented to the city council on behalf of Judy Zhe, the founder of aerospace company Aero Future, explained the need for the technology in Canada to better serve remote and indigenous communities. The company has partnered with Ehang Intelligent Technology, who would manufacture the passenger autonomous aerial vehicles. I believe this was supposed to be tested before, when I read, in places like Quebec. How did that actually turn out? It says the drones have received certification by aviation authorities in China. The company says they are working with Transport Canada to perform test flights in communities across the country. If approved, Dawson Creek would be the first test site in northern BC. G says the drones are a way of transporting food and parcels while being equipped to have emergency response capabilities for fighting forest fires and providing emergency medical response. Saying, quote, "We would like the opportunity to speak to you directly about these vehicles to discuss how they can be of service and the possibility of having them tested within your community," said Z in the letter. So would people be okay with this overall? It's kind of interesting too, as I was actually contacted by a Canadian company before that does things like drone deliveries, where when they start, let's just say, delivering around the lower mainland area, they offer to let me, for example, just check it out, film it and so forth. Will people be okay with this, I guess? Again, it's just kind of interesting how they say Chinese companies specifically. If you want to be a test site for drones, wouldn't you just offer to everyone, like in general? So who knows what will come about with this? All right, see you guys later.